Alright agents, I promised a follow-up video to the Summer Swarm Season Pass extension video, and here it is. We're going to cap off the previous discussion with the data that I've finally been able to collect with the help of the community and draw some conclusions. Every moment on this video is seconds you could be farming, so I'll try to be as fast as possible. In this video, you're going to hear advice that you won't hear anywhere else. Let's get stuck into it. So if you haven't seen the original video, go ahead and watch it before this one. I'm not going to repeat myself.
This unnecessary chit-chat is angering me. I don't like to repeat myself, so you die.
So if you haven't seen that one, you're probably going to be confused. Once again, anytime I talk about XP in this video, I'm talking about seasonal XP that we need for the Summer Swarm event. Instead of saying priority objective every time, like last time, I'm going to switch to saying PO instead. In this video, we'll lay out the data, tackle some myths, and then talk about strategies for group play and strategies for going solo. First of all, definitely turn on the modifiers, at least before completing projects. I know it might be a surprise, but it increases the XP gain even from these projects, so it's just free XP. Now, the devs just relented and now they're giving us a guaranteed drop of a Lexington at level 130 and a Turmoil at level 150, so we want to at the very least reach those season levels as efficiently as possible. If you want to go for more than that and see if you can get an exclusive exotic or more Lexingtons and Turmoils, that's your call, but just remember the drop chances are vanishingly small. It's very possible that even after 200 season pass levels, you will have nothing that you wanted. Let's get straight into the data. I've been able to fill in the base XP values for each activity. I posted a Reddit thread with this spreadsheet so you can download your own copy if you want to edit it. Thanks to everyone that contributed to this. These legends include Roscoe, N-Tram, Crocodiles, which is a great name by the way, Classy Zizo, XDRT, Ryan, and Justin. It was a massive help. I'm still missing the data for some of the Brooklyn priority objectives, but hopefully we'll get those soon. First, let's bust some myths. Myth number 1, setting the world difficulty to heroic, but changing a mission's difficulty still gives heroic level XP from priority objectives. This is false. POs update their XP gain when you change an activity's difficulty, and so does the XP from the activity itself. I don't know of any way to cheese this as of yet. Myth number 2, Coney Island Ballpark, DCD headquarters, and insert mission here is a fast farm. This is kind of a myth, but kind of not a myth. DCD headquarters invaded is actually a lot faster than normal DCD headquarters. I thought normal DCD was fast, but my clear times didn't really reflect that when I looked into it. One guy on Reddit really thought that Coney Island Ballpark was fast. I tried it, and it really wasn't. Plus, its XP reward is pretty lackluster. The long and short of this is you really have to time this for yourself. I found myself remembering certain activities being longer than they actually were and some activities being shorter. It was only after I ran a solid run and actually looked at my clear times that I could come to a definitive conclusion for myself. So this is kind of a myth, but kind of not. You really need to find out for yourself. Myth number 3, invaded missions give more XP. Invaded missions give the same XP as normal missions. They just show their XP on the map when you mouse over them, whereas base missions don't. Once you get into the mission options select screen, you'll see the full XP gain information there. Manhunt missions, as we can see from the table, do give less XP actually. Some invaded missions are longer and some are shorter. Invaded District Union Arena took me, I think, 12 minutes to complete, compared to 7.5 minutes for base DUA. Once again, this is something that you need to test for yourself. In my opinion, most invadeds take longer, if just for waiting for helicopters to dispense enemies and because of more robots. Okay, with those myths out of the way, let's move on. There are some methods detailed in this guide that require or greatly benefit from being in a group. The best way to get a group is by asking your clan or going into a looking for group or LFG channel on one of the many division related discords. You've got GC Rocks Discord, the Division Discord, Tom Clancy's The Division Discord, Tuxedo Bandito's Discord, Rogue Gold's Discord. They all have LFG channels. Let's discuss some of the pros and cons of working in a group for this event. If you're missing some items, but have some others, you can give the items you already have to other players and vice versa. Grouping up isn't going to be ideal for all situations. As we can see, priority objectives are giving almost, but not quite, as much XP as the activity itself, meaning it almost doubles our XP gain. Since every player's POs are going to be different, groups can't really rely on these POs for XP gain. Instead, you need to be able to run the activities fast enough to have the raw activity XP make up for the lack of PO XP. If you're an agent who's missing some items, it would behoove you to group up. Yes, you might drop your XP per minute gain. We'll talk about some methods that could keep you pretty close so you don't lose too much XP. The big difference though is that you'll have 3 other agents to get drops for each other. That's quadrupling your odds. Having at least one other player doubles your odds. Plus, there's the added benefit of being able to commiserate with each other. So even if you just run the high efficiency missions and strongholds without using POs, you're still coming out either as good as you would without POs, or even better, assuming you can run them just as fast as you can solo. Be sure to talk with your group members about what you're looking for and what you can drop for them. To all the agents out there who already have most of these items, please, I'd highly encourage you to take some other agents under your wing. Help them run activities faster and share items that you have duplicates of. I understand the desire to run solo, and we'll cover those strategies in a bit, but I think one of the best ways we can get through this event is together. If we all struggle alone through this mess, I think the whole player base is going to get extremely discouraged and burnt out. So let's discuss the ways groups can get seasonal XP. GC Rock has been running the Army Terminal mission from the Brooklyn DLC for this, as it is the mission with the highest base XP in the game. It took me a long while to get through it solo, as I died a number of times. But I'd only run it once before, and I was running it with a glass cannon all red build. A team, especially after running it a lot, should be able to get the mission time down significantly. What other options are there? Well, you can always still run the highest efficiency missions and strongholds and try your best with POs. But there are other ways. Other ways detailed by fellow YouTuber Died Again Gaming. He has been cooking with farming methods for this event, and he has added the most detailed video I've ever seen. Lots of other creators would just throw ideas out there without actually backing them up. He's got the goods. He's a proponent of open world activities, including bounties, and he can run them extremely fast. His video details map conditions, what control points to take over, what exact bounties and activities to run, and even the exact pathing he uses to complete the activities as fast as possible. Check out his video in the description for all the details. Farming open world can also allow you to complete weekly project and manhunt scouts. Keep in mind that the individual manhunt tasks don't give you seasonal XP, you have to finish the whole scout. Both of these sources give a lot of seasonal XP. Speaking of bounties, IKEA has a detailed video focused solely on bounty farming, so check that one out in the description. It explains how to do it in every section of the map and is an absolute masterclass. There's one final method: farming summit boss floors. Strangely, normal summit floors don't give any XP. Only boss floors give XP. You can do this method by either using an alternate account solo or using group mates to hold the boss floor. As long as you're able to get through the floor fast enough, you'll be able to get a certain amount of XP for each one. I'm not certain 100% on how much XP you'll get, because it seems to not only be variable on the difficulty that you're playing at, but also how high up on the floors you are. I was running around level 50 and I was getting 441 XP. Other players are quoting different numbers, some less and some more. I'm still working on the data and could use some more input here. In addition to boss floor XP, there's a weekly project for doing 15 floors, and there's a priority objective. Since there are only 3 quote-unquote activity POs, there's a much higher chance that you and your group members can get it. There's a Redditor who seems to be at level 720, and they said they did it by continuously farming Summit Floor 100. I have no idea if that season level is legit, but several other Redditors have endorsed this method and have even shown videos on how to farm the level. Most farming videos on YouTube about this are from a while back and are centered around normal XP, not seasonal XP, but it works exactly the same. Search any one of those or just pal around in the Discords and you should find someone who can walk you through it. The best video I've found to explain this has been Rousey's, link in the description. One final caveat to running these activities in a group. As I said before, I can run DUA in about 7.5 minutes, maybe 7 minutes if I get really lucky. I ran the stronghold as fast as I could with the group the other night. I told the group that I was doing seasonal XP and that we should go fast. I asked them if they needed anything from the season caches and they said no. All of my teammates were present at the start of the stronghold. I ran as fast as I could and we finished in around 12 minutes. Two of us ended up with about 1.2 billion damage and the other two were around 400 million. That's not saying two guys were slacking or anything, but I was constantly pushing the pace and being aggressive, sometimes too aggressive. Since enemies are a lot tankier, my build wasn't performing the same as it did solo. I didn't expect any of the other players, but I suspect the other two had skill builds, or maybe just less optimized builds. I don't think my build or any of the other players had builds that were necessarily tuned to properly get through that stronghold quickly. What I'm trying to say is be prepared if you group up to adjust your build and communicate with your team about the expectations that you have. Even if you do, you might still end up running some activities slower. The more coordination and synergy you get with your team, the better your outcome is going to be. Being on voice comms with them through a Discord, I imagine, is also going to improve your outcomes as well. Even though my group and I ran DUA slower than I had solo, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'd love to group up with those guys again any day. In fact, the next day, those guys joined the group again, completely just when I called for backup. Happened to be mostly the same guys. I also would have been ecstatic if I had been able to get a fellow player an item that they really wanted. Those are the kind of memories you keep for a long time. So I would strongly encourage both new and especially experienced players to group up and help each other out. Give it a try and you can always switch back to going solo if things aren't working out. Speaking of going solo, let's transition to talking solo strategies. Solo, you're going to want to hit those priority objectives hard, as we already discussed in the last video. We also already discussed the best activities to run, and the data that I've gathered since then has only validated my earlier opinions. Use the spreadsheet to check what activities they are before you decrypt the priority objectives. Reroll if you need to get high efficiency activities. If you run out of rerolls, you can simply switch characters, since each character gets a full set of rerolls. Hopefully by the time you run out of rerolls on that character, your original character will have their rerolls refreshed, or you can again change to another character. This is another thing that we should bank for the next event. If you don't have at least 3 characters at level 40, I would strongly suggest having this done before the next time the season extension comes around. If somehow you're completely out of rerolls, and maybe your other characters aren't level 40 or some other extenuating circumstance, what do you do with a bad priority objective? Well, it's going to be a toss-up as to which is more efficient. Running a long activity with a PO or running a more efficient activity with no PO. You just kind of have to look at the sheet and do some mental math for yourself. If you know you can get faster at a particular activity and you need the practice, maybe do that one. If your reward from a priority objective is an exotic, maybe take that one instead. Now let's talk about difficulty. Last video, my advice was to run activities on the difficulty that you're comfortable with. For me, that's heroic. However, Salt and Pepper X commented on my last video, challenging my opinion, and he had some really good arguments. So you might want to run activities on the difficulty one below what you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable with challenging, maybe run them on hard. This is definitely worth trying and experimenting with for yourself, especially if you play on heroic, and let me explain why. With heroic, if you die, you go all the way back to the start. Now, that might hardly ever happen. But if it's not happening, it's possible you're playing safer and less aggressively than you could otherwise on a lower difficulty. Not only is playing at a lower difficulty faster eliminating enemies, but this aggressiveness and safety also plays a factor. Let's talk about more trade-offs. There are missions where there are enemies that like to hide and you can't reach, such as Air and Space Museum with enemies up on the catwalks, big headquarters, etc. Playing on a lower difficulty makes it easier to take these enemies down before they get into cover or when they decide to poke their heads out. You can also run the Oxidizer skill, Survivalist Incendiary Grenade, or Demolitionist Grenade Launcher to kill them after they've gone into cover, but all the same, lower difficulty means less having to deal with enemies hiding in cover. Killing enemies, of course, is certainly lots faster on lower difficulties, but if the activity has lots of running anyway, that time isn't going to be affected. Same kind of thing for my Turmoil build. It gets through combat much faster than usual, so most open world activities become less efficiency because there's so much more running than something like a mission. With a one-shot build that can one-shot everything on Heroic, you might not go any faster on Challenging and below. If your build can't one-shot on a certain difficulty, but can on a lower difficulty though, that lower difficulty of course is going to be much faster. Since enemies do less damage on lower difficulties, as well as being less tanky, you're at much less risk and can play more aggressive than on Heroic. Also, if you go down, you'll start in the room that you're in rather than all the way at the start of the activity, as I talked about before. This is especially critical for longer activities like longer missions and strongholds. But most importantly, lower difficulties can allow you to hit certain breakpoints for status effect builds. These builds do require a good amount of skill in knowing enemy spawn locations. I personally have a ton of trouble timing the spawns, so practice, I guess, and you'll get tons faster. There's one final obvious trade-off, that you're losing some XP from lowering the difficulty. I checked 2 missions and the increase in XP going from challenging to heroic was about 22%. That is pretty significant, so we gotta take that into account. Alright agents, I think that covers about everything. A reminder to the more experienced players, and players who already have most of the valuable items from this event, I implore you, please, take some other agents under your wing and help them get through content faster and share items with them. Let's build each other up and help each other through this trying time. If you got questions or there's anything that I didn't cover, please throw it down in the comments. We've had great comments in the past couple of videos, and I love talking with you guys about what's going on and seeing your feedback. Like the video if you liked it, and dislike it if you disliked it. This is one of the most direct ways for me to get feedback if you like the content or not. Of course, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any more uploads. And check out our playlist to find more videos organized by type of content. Until next time, agents, thanks for learning with me. This has been Dispatch. Take care out there.
There was nothing you could have done for Espinosa.